Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naranchaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Deving Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayam Vidirayet.
Tato Jayam Dirayet.
So we're reading a little bit from Bhagavad Gita. If you want to follow along, some Bhagavad Gita's in the closet there. We can pass them out.
This light.
So, and read from second chapter, Bhagavad Gita. Because we know the Bhagavad Gita. It's all about bhakti-yoga.
Chapter.
There?
Chapter.
Chapter 2.
2. Chapter 2.
Text 39. We'll start from there and just read a few verses here.
Oh.
So on page 104, text,
Page 104.
yeah, well, text 39, at the bottom of the page. Actually, the verses starts on 105 in the transliteration. Well, this is interesting. It doesn't want to say it. Okay. Page, the top of 105. Consensus. Okay. Esha te vihita sankye.
Esha te vihitam sankye.
Buddhir yoget pamam shrinu.
Buddhi-yoga timam shrinu.
Buddhya yukta jaya parta.
Buddha-yukta jaya parta.
Karma bandham prahasyasi.
Amvandam prahasyasi.
Translation. Thus far I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Pruta, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. According to the Nirukti of the Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes things in detail, and Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. And yoga involves controlling the senses. Arjuna's proposal was not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom after conquering his cousins and brothers, the sons of Dhritarashtra. In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper. And he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they are individuals in the present, and they will continue to remain individuals in the future, because all of us are individual souls eternally. We simply change our bodies. We simply change our bodily dress in different manners. But actually we keep our individuality even after liberation from the bondage of material dress. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna. And this descriptive knowledge of the soul and the body from different angles of vision has been described here as Sankhya in terms of the Nirukti dictionary. This Sankhya has nothing to do with the Sankhya philosophy of the atheist Kapila. Long before the impostor Kapila's Sankhya, the Sankhya philosophy was expounded in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the true Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother Devahuti. It is clearly explained by him that the Purusha, or the Supreme Lord, is active, and that he creates by looking over at the Prakriti. This is just accepted in the Vedas and in the Gita. The description in the Vedas indicates that the Lord glanced over the Prakriti, or nature, and impregnated it with atomic individual souls. All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification, and under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers. This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation, when the living entity wants to become one with the Lord. This is the last snare of Maya. It's at page 106. Yeah. This is the last spell of Maya, or sense gratificatory illusion. And it is only after many, many births of such sense gratificatory activities that a great soul surrenders into Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after the ultimate truth. Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master by surrendering himself unto him. Shishasteham Shadimam Tvam Pavanam. Consequently, Krishna will now tell him about the working process in buddhi-yoga, or karma yoga, or in other words, the practice of devotional service only for the sense gratification of the Lord. This buddhi-yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10, verse 10, as being the direct communion with the Lord, who is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart. But such communion does not take place without devotional service. One who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to the Lord, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, attains to this stage of buddhi-yoga by the special grace of the Lord. The Lord says, therefore, that only those who are always engaged in devotional service out of transcendental love does he award the pure knowledge of devotion and love. In that way, the devotee can reach him easily in the ever-blissful kingdom of God. Thus, the buddhi-yoga mentioned in this verse is the devotional service of the Lord. And the word Sankhya mentioned herein has nothing to do with an atheistic Sankhya yoga enunciated by the impostor Kapila. One should not therefore misunderstand that this Sankhya yoga mentioned herein has any connection with the atheistic Sankhya, nor did that philosophy have any influence during that time, nor would Lord Krishna care to mention such godless philosophical speculations. Real Sankhya philosophy is described by Lord Kapila in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but even that Sankhya has nothing to do with the current topics. Here, Sankhya means an analytic description of the body and the soul. Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul just to bring Arjuna to the point of buddhi-yoga, or bhakti-yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna's Sankhya and Lord Kapila's Sankhya, as described in the Bhagavatam, are one and the same. They are all bhakti-yoga. Lord Krishna said, therefore, that only the less intelligent class of man make a distinction between Sankhya yoga and bhakti-yoga. Sankhya yoga pratag bala pravadanti na pandita. Of course, atheistic Sankhya yoga has nothing to do with bhakti yoga, yet the unintelligent claim that the atheistic Sankhya yoga is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore understand that buddhi-yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness, in the full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, is working under the principles of buddhi-yoga, and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental understanding automatically by the grace of the Lord, and thus his liberation is complete in itself, without his making extraneous endeavors to acquire knowledge. There is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive results, especially in the matter of sense gratification for achieving results in terms of family or material happiness. Buddhi-yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform. So Bhagavad Gita basically is all about devotional activities, devotional service. Not just work per se, because you do some work for some result, usually in the mundane world, for some enjoyment of some sort, right? We're going to enjoy yourself. We're going to get, maybe I'm doing some work and get some money, so I can use that for sense gratification, or maybe I'll be honored. Maybe I'm doing some welfare activities, feeding the poor, helping the downtrodden or whatever, which is pious activity, and that's not discouraged. But in Bhakti Yoga, there is a transcendental quality of devotion to Krishna. And what we have to understand, and believe me, I'm sitting here preaching to the choir. Okay. I'm not talking to someone on the street. So you all know this. I'm the one talking, and you're the one hearing. You could be sitting here saying the same thing. That we are connected to Krishna. It's like my body, my hand is part of my body. I work, I use my hands to do things for my body. So we have become so conditioned, especially when we get this material body, that, well, I guess I'm the center of existence. And, maybe we hear something about God, and there are people who are preaching what they call a prosperity consciousness, that, prosperity is good, there's nothing wrong with it, which is true. Depends on how you use it. Okay. So, trying to get some result out of our work binds us to that work. But if we do our work for the satisfaction of Krishna, then we are relieved from the responsibility, right? Prabhupada describes it like, if you're a soldier, you have a gun, and if you shoot the enemy and kill them, then you get a medal and you're recognized for valor or whatever. But if you kill someone unnecessarily, you're in big trouble. Okay. So in Bhakti Yoga, action for Krishna, we're not responsible for any reaction. And in fact, we're not doing this for some material purpose. Okay. I have a pen pal in India, and I've been corresponding with him for years, and I hadn't heard from him for a long time. And so, come along with me when I explain this kind of backstory. So somehow or other, a couple of years ago, and I don't know, maybe some of you know about it, or there was some investment scam that happened, and a lot of devotees were involved, got hurt by it. And of course, if you go to the temple, you meet someone at the temple, oh yeah, we make some deal, I can get you, a lot of, financial returns, a great interest rate or whatever, and so a lot of people would invest with this person. Not necessarily that this person was living in the temple as a brahmachari or something, but, meet people, right? And so, as it turned out, somehow or other, the whole thing fell through, and there was big loss of money. So, if we think that, we're coming to Krishna I'm giving to Krishna, and he's going to reciprocate with me, and maybe my business will flourish. And, okay, Krishna says, that those who are pious come, when they need economic development or whatever, And sometimes, you get into a crisis, because what happens if you're going to Krishna, but then your life is now going through some very troublesome times. And so this particular, person is becoming, disillusioned, And why is Krishna not helping me? Why, all these things are happening, and your mind goes away, trying to, who is Krishna, right? And that's the difference. If you think that doing pious activities, there's nothing wrong with pious activities. And Krishna explains that, okay, if you can't do bhakti-yoga, then that's, a stepping stone. You can do that, okay? But we shouldn't take Krishna as what I call like a cosmic Santa Claus, or a, God in the box. Can I take your order, please? Yeah, like a Mercedes Benz. Sorry, they're sold out. Oh, how about a color TV? Well, some supply chain problems. How about some lottery tickets? Well, yeah, sure. Okay, winning or non-winning? Well, winning, of course. Well, sorry, they sold out long ago, right? So God is not really our order supplier, but He loves us. It's like a parent. Your kid might ask you for something, and you love the kid. So okay, so like that, we are sons and daughters of Krishna, and He's all-knowing. He knows. He's got our number. He knows everything. Okay, He knows exactly what we want, what we've been through. And for one person over here, maybe they do achieve, that, the American dream, the dream job and make millions of dollars and what. Okay, and someone over here may be working really hard. He wants to become that millionaire, and it's not getting there. And sometimes, the Lord's name is Hari, the one who takes away. So sometimes people are reluctant to become a devotee of Krishna because sometimes Krishna may take away, to make you more dependent, to make you surrender. Not make you, but to facilitate our devotion. If we become distracted by too many, material activities, too much endeavor is a detriment to devotional service. Okay, so sometimes, and even in the life of Srila Prabhupada, the astrologer once said that he would be either the richest person in India or maybe in the world. I don't know. But his very expert businessman, doing everything very well, but somehow he got cheated, the business collapsed, and he had nothing. So was that, Prabhupada could have said, well, Krishna, why is Krishna just doing this to me? What did I do something wrong? But we have to understand that Krishna is transcendental to this world. Whatever we've done here, whatever holes we've dug, and now we've dug our grave and we're laying in it. Whatever we have done, okay, to this point, Krishna can, if you are inclined to Krishna, you try to come to read Bhagavad Gita, accept a spiritual direction, then Krishna may help you out of a difficult situation. He's making arrangements for every devotee. For the non-devotees, material nature is making all the arrangements. They have their karma to live down and whatever. And Krishna doesn't get involved with that. So, we're on our own. Okay? But when you become inclined to Krishna, if you're chanting Hare Krishna and coming to the temple, Krishna's got you, right? He's got you. You're in Krishna's hands. If we rebel a little bit, okay, maybe a little uncomfortable. But really, it's Krishna's control, and that's really what we want. Okay, so sometimes we may be enticed, maybe from bad habits or from bad association, or just like what happened to this gentleman in India. Not that it was his fault, that he was doing something wrong, instant karma, whatever, but somehow Krishna is trying to make this person humble. It's very, sometimes we just get too passionate, we want something, but sometimes Krishna's like, pull back on the reins a little bit. Okay, so the difference between just work and devotion is an ocean of difference. It's completely different. Okay, but we have, you know, our little desires, you know, along the way. You know, we just get this certain thing, or, you know, we have attachments from many years of living in the material world. So we have what we call mixed devotion, okay, and kind of in the form of, you know, kind of a business arrangement, a little, you know, give and take, you know, I'll surrender if you know, this kind of thing. Krishna's not like that. This is the temporary place for us to satisfy our desires, and okay, so here we are. But we're discovering there are things here that aren't very pleasant. No one wants to get old. Okay, I just turned 74. You know, years ago I had my 50th high school reunion, you know, and nobody wants to get old, right? No one wants disease. In spite of all the millions and trillions of dollars and man hours to discover how to treat diseases, it's not going away. Okay, and then, you know, sooner or later, we don't know even when, we'll pass from this body. Okay, so and then being gestated in the womb is not very much fun either. We don't usually talk about it because we forgot. But in the Vedic scriptures, it describes the condition of the child being gestated. It is as close to hell as anything you could find in this world. You can't move, you can't breathe, absolutely. And how do you even know it's day or night, moment by moment? When you're not having fun, it seems like forever. Okay. So these miseries of life that we discover here is kind of, you know, the sand in the sweet rice, or, you know, fly in the ointment. We're discovering that there are these miseries, and that is an impetus for us to inquire. Why? Okay? The child asks a question, why? What kind of answer does he get? How? You don't get a philosophical answer most of the time, because now we're invoking some transcendence. Okay, in school they don't encourage it because they don't want people worrying about religion, you know. But when you're talking about wisdom or talking about a second opinion, okay, let's go to where we can get someone who has some wisdom, somebody has some vision, and a lot of times older people are not revered. They're put in an old age home or something like that because, you know, what do they know? You know, it's modern day. But you find if you go to these places and you speak to people, they've had the experience, they've been there and done that. And a lot of them, especially, they're looking down at the younger people and thinking, you know, I'd really like to help this person because I went through what they're going through, right? But nowadays, you know, old age, people who are older, they're not respected. Okay, we have science, we have modern, you know, technology and this and that and the other thing, and who cares for old people? And what to speak of scripture? Oh my God, some, you know, book, some old book, I could write a book. What's, you know, why is it scripture? Right? Because they don't know. They don't know. They don't think, you know, some modern day philosopher, maybe, I took a philosophy class once, and, you know, the existentialism, you know, Sartre, and I forget who. I'm glad I forgot all about it. But, you know, the idea is that, you know, there's nothing out there, you know, we come up with all kinds of, you know, so-called philosophies. But nobody's going to take any stock in Bhagavad Gita, you know, 5,000-year-old book. Why have anything to do with an old book? Okay? But it's because we don't revere. I'm talking Western countries. Now, you all may have grown up in India, maybe had a different experience, but I'm just telling you, in the Western world, I never heard of Bhagavad Gita. The closest we got to Bhagavad Gita was Inagata Vida, you know. we never heard of Krishna. Growing up, I never heard the word Krishna. Anything, I've heard the word Hindu, but I didn't know anything, right? So, especially in the Western countries, these things are an antithesis of our so-called modern technological civilization. Okay, and we become educated idiots. Years ago, I went to San Diego State. I was going to be an engineer. My father, his father, they're all engineers. I was to be the next engineer. But along the way, by circumstance, there was a church around the corner, and they had a youth group. So I got pulled into that, during high school, and we used to sit around and talk about whatever we thought God was, But there was some religious activity of some sort going on, right? So I went to college, and I didn't have that anymore. So it's like asking the question, what? There's got to be something more than just this, okay? Reality has got to be much thicker than what we see, right? There's something beyond this. I want to know what that is. I want to know, what is life about? And is there an afterlife or whatever? And I was despondent. It's like it wasn't, I'm studying all this stuff to the nth degree to become an engineer, but I'm missing what in my heart is. I don't know what's missing, but I know there's something. Okay, and unfortunately at the time, the devotee were there. They were standing out in front of the student lounge. But their appearance was kind of off-putting, so I didn't really give them much stock. They'd be dancing around with shaven heads and ponytails and face paint. What did I know? So later on, one of these people came to my door and sold me Bhagavad Gita. And so, and said, try chanting Hare Krishna. And, I won't say overnight, but reading Bhagavad Gita, and I was, chanting, and I realized that there's something to this. There's something that I can feel. Here's, you make an experiment. It's scientific if you get the same result. He said 5 minutes a day, at the end of a week, you'll see a change in your consciousness. And sure enough, he was right, and I realized, wow, there's some real power in this. But it's not something that's intellectual. It's something that you're feeling. Okay. If you don't have something better, you're not going to give up something lesser. Okay. I was doing things I don't want to admit, drugs or whatever. But when I started chanting, I realized I have to choose. I can't get to both. Okay. If I'm chanting, if I take drugs or whatever, then that kind of happiness goes away. So I have to choose which do I want? Where am I going to go? And it wasn't a very hard choice because I was miserable doing what I thought was going to make me happy, right? So when you have a taste, you're actually feeling something. Okay, now I can give up this other thing. And I knew taking drugs was just childish. I knew that. And I said to myself, if I find something better, I'm going to do it. And, Krishna was right there. And in my darkest hour, I was able to, I started coming to the temple, and then someone said, why don't you just move in? I wasn't married. Okay. I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't know what the word brahmachari meant. I'd read, most of the Bhagavad Gita, but it had everything in one place. It's all there, karma, all these terms that you hear, karma and reincarnation, is there is there a God, and what's he like, and, birth and death, and all these concepts. It's all right there. And the only thing I didn't understand was, And every page practically, it says devotional service is the only way to understand God, the only way. I'm like, what are they talking about? What is this devotional service, right? So I called up the temple, and they said, well, if you come down on Saturday, we'll explain, what this is. So, okay, come down on Saturday. So I go down to the office, and the temple president says, take this young man around to the kitchen and show him some devotional service. Washing pots, right? Oh, I get it. This is service, okay, but it's for Krishna. Okay. And at the end of the day, when an evening kirtan came along, and I went down to the, dancing in front of the deities, now I understand why they're dancing, because they're so happy doing devotional service. It's like the light goes on. Duh. Devotional service. But it's service. We're serving anyway. You have a job, you're serving, right? Even if you're the CEO, you're serving the company, you're serving the employees. So when you're serving Krishna, that's real yoga. That's not this what Prabhupada calls in this false Sankhya philosophy. It has nothing to do with this world other than we're being here and we get the opportunity to utilize the things of this world in the service of Krishna. Okay, that's actually Lord Brahma came up with that. That's in Brahma Samhita. So, doing devotional service is not a mundane activity, and we should not expect any result. It's not good karma, it's not bad karma. As you would think that all the other religions of the world are saying, if we help service to man to service to God is what the idea. But that's not true. Okay, you serve God, that's service to man. Okay, so feeding people, but not just feeding them anything, but feeding prasada. Now we're talking. Now we're actually doing something because we're serving Krishna's interest. Okay, so coming to the temple, having kirtan, chanting japa at home or wherever, reading books about Krishna, that's all devotional service. Hearing and chanting, remembering, that's devotional service right there. Krishna's right there in your mind. Okay, there are 9 different spiritual processes. Okay, has nothing to do with this world. We're not going to end up, or we might, but it's all under Krishna's hand. And this is what we are meant to do, because the goal of life is to regain our relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world, where there are no troubles. Okay, we decided that we didn't want to serve Krishna. Somewhere along the line, we wanted to come here and lord it over matter because we're superior to matter. And here's this place we can go and we can have our own kingdom, and but the truth is we're too small. We're smaller than an atom. We can't move. We can't do anything. So Krishna, behind the scenes, unbeknownst to us, makes this situation where it's like the Transformers. Those Transformer movies, they climb in a big machine and suddenly, they push the levers and, and it becomes this like a superpower. So we've been given this body. You have different bodies in this world, you can do so many wonderful things, but we're not the body. We're just inside of it, looking out of our eyes. Maybe we were a dog, maybe we were, a tree or anything. But we've forgotten who we actually are. Okay. So now, now that we have a human form, now's the opportunity. Okay. And kudos to y'all for taking this opportunity. Okay. I got dragged into it, but most of you have an Indian background, you know all of this, or at least you know some of it. You have that background. You know what Bhagavad Gita is. You know who Lord Krishna is, basically. But for someone like me, this is all new. Did I have contact with it from previous life? Maybe. maybe even a long time ago, but seeing how degraded I was, I've fallen a long way. Okay, so congratulate yourself for coming here and having an interest, because this is what we're supposed to do when we're human beings. Okay, what these other people are doing, in the corner over here at the bar or whatever, they may never get another chance. They may actually, many of them, may lose the opportunity to be a human being. You like to surf and do all that kind of stuff, well, you can be a dolphin. Cowabunga, you can surf all day long, but they don't know that if you fall down into the different species of life, you got to work your way up again. 8,400,000 species of life. It's a lot of different bodies you could get. And each body you get, you feel like it's 100 years. An ant lives maybe 2 weeks or whatever. But to him, it's 100 years. Okay? Lord Brahma lives, how many? We can't even calculate his life. But to him, he's a little over, halfway through his life. He's probably in his 50s. But to him, it just seems like 100 years. Okay? So imagine all that time just to get a chance again to be a human being. And Srila Prabhupada actually explains sometimes they don't learn. They go all the way to the bottom, work their way up to be a human being, and turn away from God and do it all over again. What a tragedy. A real tragedy. So anyone who has contact with Krishna consciousness, even a little bit, is a great, it's a save. Because if you have any interest whatsoever, if you pursue it even a little bit, you'll get a human body. Okay. But there are people who are, staunch atheists or whatever, and they don't get that chance. They follow their desires and end up in most abominable condition. So what's our time limit? Did I go over? I don't know what's next. But yeah, I'll think. Speak. Speak to me. Tell me, what do you think?
There's some actually. Sometimes even someone get the chance to be familiar with the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, but still might not be fully deeply rooted. And still, let's say, still complete us. Although someone got to know from their very early age, but never basically involved 100% or fully to that.
Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Although there was a chance, but never been utilized fully.
Yeah. That's why we have a temple. That's why we have association. Because if it's just like anybody has a hobby, right? You get together and we have meetings, or you meet a certain place or whatever, and you hang out and you pursue your hobby, and you begin to learn more about it, and Krishna consciousness or any kind of God consciousness, like that. You get together and you talk about it and you do it with each other, and there's a lot of, especially in this day and age, so many things out there, trying to entice us, right? And all these things that you don't, if you don't know any better, Maya is she's very cruel. She'll entangle you, okay? And it's not her business to, it's a school of hard knocks you never graduate from. She'll entice you to do something, get involved with something that you probably think is probably not good, but there it is, and you go for it, and then your whole life can fall apart. I can think in my own life thinking, man, I escaped some pretty terrible consequences. Just, I don't know why Krishna saved me, but some people just, they get involved with something. You're driving in a car, you're with your homies, right? And somehow or other you're driving in their car and they go do some crime. Well, guess what? If suppose they kill somebody, or you're going to rob somebody, you're sitting in the back seat and somehow somebody else pulls out a gun and shoots your friend who's in the front seat. Somebody died in the commission of that crime, and guess what? You're going to jail. Maybe for a long time. You weren't holding the trigger, you weren't thinking it was going to happen. So we get involved with things, and we don't see what's going to happen. This world it's like so many, like when the water goes down the drain, we're getting sucked into entanglement in the material world. And that's why we need association, to keep away from that kind of stuff. And to build our faith that, no, this is not going to make me happy. I'm going to continue my chanting. We're going to continue reading. And we're going to, be involved in Krishna consciousness in some fashion or other. Maybe I'm not fit to live in the temple, maybe. I've got things going on, maybe got a family, whatever, and I'm not a brahmachari, right? Or I've got, I'm building a business, or, whatever it is, maybe we don't, our circumstances aren't that we can full-time get involved. Or maybe we can. But the main thing is we're not in it for the long haul. Okay? It may take a lifetime, 10 lifetimes, 100 lifetimes. We've been here millions of lifetimes, so what's 100 lifetimes? Right? So, the main thing is that we have to have a taste. We have to have a taste for this. You're coming, hearing nice bhajan, that's the sweetest. Hare Krishna. So that's our activity. And we should think it's not just here today and gone tomorrow, this is our life. This is our life. So, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Hare Krishna. Thank you so. Jai Srila Prabhupada.